Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Millennial Revolt, an independent political talk show that seeks to bring a different narrative than the stale one we have going on right now in the mainstream media. So today we're going to be talking about Duterte's and the Philippines and the new relationship that is being forged with the U.S. and how it's going to affect relations moving forward, the Philippines' relationship with China. So let's just get right into it. When Rodrigo Duterte was running for the office of the presidency, he promised an all-out war on drugs. What he's delivered was a war on suspected drug dealers, and their families, which has estimated killed over 2,400 people in the past 2 months. Now, when he was elected, he ran on this promise and they elected him because of this. He cleaned up his drug-infested town in Davao when he was the mayor there. So the people knew what they were electing him for. Now, President Obama has made inquiries about what he views as extrajudicial killings by people on the street, no due process being given to these people. And Rodrigo Duterte called him a son of a whore, and he must respect other people's countries. Now, the White House in turn canceled a meeting that they had with President Duterte's. White House Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes said that we've noted the statements he's made, and he explained that the White House canceled the meeting because all we were going to discuss were a series of comments. Frankly, that did not strike us as the most conductive way to discuss a bilateral meeting. Now, the tidal wave of extrajudicial and vigilante killings have raised international concerns about human rights violations in the countries and the right of due process of these suspected criminals and drug dealers. So the Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte has also raised concerns about the security agreements between the Philippines and the United States when he called on Monday saying that he wants the U.S. forces off of the southern Philippines island of Manzanillo. Apologies if I pronounced the name incorrectly, where he is fighting a violent Muslim rebel group while he is seeking talks with another. The 71-year-old president blames the United States for inflaming Muslim insurgency in his country. Now, I look at this both ways. On one hand, you can blame the United States for rise in terrorism throughout the world, only because in the 1980s we funded the Mujahideen to try to defeat the Soviet Union. Mujahideen morphed into Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda eventually went on to attack the United States, and then we went and started an illegal war in the Middle East against a country that did not even attack us, two countries that did not even attack us, eventually creating more terrorism and more failed states and more people flooding into Europe and flooding into the East as well, and this has caused a lot of problems. On the other hand, you can say that there were always issues in the Philippines. They have always had a Muslim rebel problem. So I mean, you can look at it on both. Some Filipinos resent the United States as their country's former colonizer, and when Rodrigo Duterte was speaking in a press conference, he did show a photo of the United States former colonizing the Philippines and what they had done to the Muslim population. People are saying that the Philippines and the United States row are a way for the Philippines to reach out a diplomatic hand toward China, because Duterte hinted during his campaign before the May 9th elections that he wanted to get on with China, and he is now currently taking steps in that direction. Last month, Duterte began repairing relations by sending former Philippine Fidel Ramos as an envoy to Hong Kong for informal meetings with the Chinese officials. The trip was aimed at paving the way for possible talks with the Chinese government regarding the improvement of relations, says Ramon Caspil, executive director of the Philippines advocacy group Institute for Political and Electoral Reform. It was part of Duterte's campaign promises. Duterte, who took office June 30th, said on Filipino television Tuesday that the two countries had agreed to lend the Philippines money over 25 years to buy military equipment. He didn't name the countries, but added that his defense secretary and technical people in the armed forces would visit China and Russia to see what's best, according to news reports from the Philippines. Currently, the Philippines economy is actually doing really well. It grew by 7% in the second quarter, year on year, roughly double than the long run rate and faster than China, let alone any other country in the region. Unemployment is at 5.4% and has been falling steadily. The population is young and some of it is English speaking. And there has been a boom in the service sector as more educated Filipinos from seeking their fortunes abroad. And there has been a growing middle class. When Mr. Duterte took over the country, his campaign focused on crime, traffic, corruption, and even though he admitted that the economic policy was not his strong suit, he promised to employ economic minds to the country and leave it to them. His advisors released a sensible 10-point plan for the economy, and it emphasized macroeconomic stability, improved infrastructure, reduced red tape, and more straightforward and predictable system of land ownership. Mr. Duterte himself has also promised to focus on rural development and tourism. Workers advocates are pleased with his promise to crack down on contractualization, where employers hire labor from third-party suppliers on short-term contracts to avoid paying benefits. Even though internet in the Philippines is slow and expensive, Mr. Duterte has promised that incumbent telecom firms to improve services or face foreign competition. Now, because of the drug war that is currently happening in the Philippines, the American Chamber of Commerce warned that the anti-drug campaign was calling into question the government's commitment to the rule of law. One financial advisor says that since Mr. Duterte took office, investors are demanding a higher risk premium to hold the Philippines' assets. Mr. Duterte's critics fear that the drug trade will only subside temporarily, but the damage will be done to democratic institutions will linger forever. Another issue that has arisen is comments made by the Philippines foreign minister. Now, he has recently stated that the Philippines will not be treated as a literal brown brother to the United States and will not be lectured on human rights. Speaking in Washington on Thursday, Foreign Minister Perfecto Yase said, "I am asking our American friends, American leaders, to look at our aspirations. We cannot forever be the little brown brothers of America. We have to develop, we have to grow, and become the big brother to our own people. You have to manage it correctly. You do not go to the Philippines and say, I'm going to give you something, I'm going to help you grow. But this is the checklist you must comply with. We will lecture you on human rights," he said. Yase went on to stress, however, that the country's president is still firmly committed to keep and respect alliances in the United States. The U.S. has previously said that it is deeply concerned about the campaign against drugs and urged the government to ensure that law enforcement officers comply with the country's human rights obligations. Yase insisted on Thursday, however, that many of Duterte's recent comments and actions regarding the U.S. has been misunderstood and rejected criticism of the president's controversial war on drugs, stating that Manila would never condone illegal killings. He also claimed that Duterte's call for withdrawal of U.S. Special Forces from the southern Philippines, whereas only a temporary measure aimed at keeping them safe while Philippine forces took in an offensive against Abu Sayyaf militants, which is the Muslim rebel group they are fighting in the Philippines. He also said that Duterte's opposition to joint maritime patrols with the U.S. concerned the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, not joint patrols within the 12 nautical miles off its coast. Duterte, who came into power in May, promised to wipe out drugs and drug dealers, and he has come under fierce criticism because of his war on campaigns, as I previously stated. Despite widespread criticism of his campaign, Duterte has vowed to continue the war on drugs until the end of his term, and he has shrugged off accusations that he has violated human rights. He also promised law enforcement that they will not be held criminally liable while acting in his drug war campaign. going to be interesting to see how the Philippines President Duterte balances his military alliance with the United States, as well as him trying to reach out to Russia and China as well, and possibly get military equipment for them. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Millennial Revolt, and you have a wonderful day.